Welcome to the Analysis of Civil Services 2015 Mock 5 Paper 2. This paper here has got some 10 passages that will test you on your ability to comprehend the written text. The verbal section is then followed by some 4-5 questions on critical reasoning. So we will be discussing some difficult passages in this paper. Let us begin by having a look at passage number 2 of the paper. The passage here talks about two of the contemporary institutions, the military and higher education, and it says that both of these institutions are strikingly similar in several instructive ways. It says that in their own fashion, both are recognized as routes to the acquisition and sustenance of power. Despite obvious differences of degree, both are extremely expensive, inherently wasteful, and resist accountability, but are nevertheless seen as mandatory items on national budgets. Globally, they are simultaneously universal and extremely centralized. Both are burdened by ideologically overloaded stereotypes far removed from current realities, like that the images of brave soldier or brilliant scientist. Above all, the nature and purpose of both are taken as self-evident, thus reflecting much needed introspection about the recently transformed modalities and future roles. In fact, being taken for granted is more true of higher education than the military. Perhaps even more so in the Indian than the global context. But Indian higher education has changed so comprehensively in the last decade that even its most obvious objectives and functions need to be recontextualized and re-evaluated. This is what this whole passage talks about. Let us have a look at the questions now. The first question here gives us two statements. The first one says the purpose of both higher education and military is understood to be self-evident. We have just read and marked this word self-evident, so we'll just go back there and see. The second statement says it is important to contemplate the present and future roles of both higher education and military. Let us go back to the passage. If you look at the line here, it very clearly says above all the nature and purpose of both, that is military and higher education, are taken as self-evident, thus deflecting much needed introspection about their recently transformed modalities and future roles. Well, according to this line, both of these statements are true, because it's very clearly mentioned that the purpose of both higher education and military is self-evident. Yes, it is written in the passage, and it is important to contemplate the present and future roles of both higher education and military. Yes, this can also be understood from this particular line, which says that thus deflecting much needed introspection about the recently transformed, that is the present and future roles. And the second statement here says the same thing. Therefore, both of these statements are correct. Thus, the answer will be option C. Which of the following statements is the author likely to agree with? The money invested in both higher education and military does not reap desired results. Well, we read this line which said that that both of these institutions are inherently wasteful. Well, as per this phrase, inherently wasteful, we can say that yes, the money invested in both higher education does not reap desired results. So therefore, this statement is correct. The image of a brave soldier is as popular as that of a brilliant scientist. Both of these terms have been spoken about here. It says like the perennially popular images of the brave soldier or the brilliant scientist, for example. The author here just gives us these two terms, but he does not make any comparison between these two. So we cannot say that one is more popular than the other or both are equally popular, because he does not talk about the same. Therefore, it cannot be concluded that image of the brave soldier is as popular as that of brilliant scientist. No, we do not know that. Higher education and military should not be seen as mandatory items on the national budget. Well, here again, the author does not give his opinion. Just like in the statement 2, we do not have any opinion of the author. Similarly, in statement 3 also, we do not see the author making any opinion on these being included as mandatory items on the national budget. The passage only says that here it says that but are nevertheless seen as mandatory items on national budgets. But we do not know whether they should be seen or should not be seen as mandatory items. Therefore, this is also incorrect. So the answer will be option A. Which of the following statements are correct in the Indian context? The Indian context is talked about in the final paragraph. So we know that we have to go back to the final paragraph to answer this question. The purpose of all military activities is taken for granted. Let us go back to the final paragraph. In fact, being taken for granted is more true of higher education than the military, and perhaps even more so in the Indian than the global context. Well, from this we can infer that being taken for granted is true for military, but it is more true for higher education. But statement 1 here is very definite in nature. It says that the purpose of all military activities is taken for granted. We cannot say that it is true for all the military activities. Also, this is too definite a statement. So therefore, this cannot be correct. The purpose of higher education is not questioned. Let us refer to the line which is given here. The last line of the first paragraph, it says, above all, the nature and purpose of both are taken as self-evident, thus deflecting much needed introspection about their recently transformed modalities and future roles. We've already discussed this line, and according to this, the purpose of higher education is not questioned. So when it is said that the purpose of both is taken to be self-evident, this means that the purpose of higher education is also not questioned. Therefore, this statement is correct. Higher education in India needs to be revamped. This has been very clearly mentioned in the final paragraph, which says that the objectives and functions need to be recontextualized and re-evaluated. So this means, yes, the higher education in India needs to be revamped. So this is the correct answer. Therefore, we can say that option D is the correct answer.